Okay, so we're August the 2nd, 2026. You had some more to tell us, Papa.
Yeah, I think I'd like to tell you about Nana's experience that she had as a child, starting off with a child, her testimony, more or less. If I recall, it was about 12 years old. She was living in Oklahoma, and they were going to a Baptist church, Southern Baptist. The family had always been Southern Baptist, and as far as they were concerned, that was it, Southern Baptist. And so one time, for some reason, they had a series of meetings at night. I think they had a week of maybe evangelistic meetings or something. And her brother Wayne, which was the closest in age to her, she had two older brothers and an older sister, but Wayne was the closest one to her in age. Uh, Very avid churchgoer, and he said he was going to go to the meetings, and he went, and no one else went with him. He just went by himself. But he came home and very excited about it, and told Patsy that she needed to go because he really went forward, and he was knows for knows knew now for sure he was saved, and he wanted her to go and see what she thought about the meetings.
And that was her what? Her brother?
Her brother.
Did I ever meet him?
I don't know if you ever met. She had the oldest brother was Doc, and then there was Joe, and then there was Wayne.
I remember the names, but I don't feel like I've ever
Wayne
met
was a shoe salesman. His basic career was working in shoe stores and became a manager of a shoe store. That was his career, was selling shoes. Where Doc was a grocer, was in the grocery business, and Joe was a butcher, basically in stores that Doc was managing or eventually owned. And so, uh, and Opal was married to a fellow called Tom, who was a forest ranger.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've ever met them or
I
not,
feel
but
like
they
Opal I
lived
may
on
have
the
met.
Rogue River,
Okay.
up in Rogue River, Oregon. And but anyway, Wayne was the youngest, other than Patsy. Patsy was probably probably 5 years younger than Wayne. She was a midlife baby. Her mother was getting pretty old when that she wasn't expected.
Mm.
So anyway, she said, "Okay, Wayne, I'll go with you." So she went to the meeting, really enjoyed it, went forward, and from that moment on, she said, "I'm saved. I mean, I gave my life to Christ, and I'm saved, and that's all there is to it." She never doubted it, never changed her testimony. That was her testimony. And we got married, and when she was 17, I believe. So 5 years later, they'd moved to Oregon, and her father had died, and sort of a difficult situation. But they moved to Oregon to be closer to her brothers and her sister, and just her and her mother alone. And they were going to a Baptist church in Medford, Oregon, where they were living when I met her. And when we got married, I can't remember exactly what the situation was, but I remember that for some reason didn't have the time slot or something to get married in her Baptist church, and the Presbyterian church that I belonged to in Ashland, that was without a pastor at the time. So I happened to think about a friend of mine, a girl that was in the debate team from Medford, where Tishy was, Medford, Oregon, that her father was a minister. So I couldn't remember which church, and I called her up, talked to her for a while, and it turned out he was the minister of the First Presbyterian Church in Medford, Oregon. And Patsy wasn't thrilled with the idea of sort of a girl, not a real girlfriend, but a girl acquaintance of mine setting up our marriage. But but she did with her father, talked to her father, and he said, "Well, I can fit him in on a Saturday. I believe it was a Saturday." So we got married in a Presbyterian church in Medford, Oregon, September 1951. And she, again, was never really happy about being married in a Presbyterian church. But anyway, she satisfied with it. But sort of skipping now to we got married, and then of course we went to Hawaii, and never did find a good church in Hawaii. I mean, we went to a military church, which was a chaplain situation, interdenominational, and wasn't that great. Went to Walla Walla, Washington, to attend Whitman College. I had a scholarship that I got in high school to go there, so went there after serving 2 years in the Navy, and had went to the Baptist church in Walla Walla, and I can remember she was very disappointed. She said, "This is not really a Baptist church." And we tried a couple more churches. I remember tried a Congregational church and a Presbyterian church and several others. And finally, she said, "Well, let's go back and try the Baptist church again." So we did, and if I remember correctly, the pastor was very liberal, and she wasn't used to that, being a Southern Baptist. I mean, strict Bible believing, Bible preaching is what she was used to. That's what she assumed church was. And so she kind of had a bit of a falling out with the minister. And he more or less said, "Well, I think you've got your priorities wrong," or something. Anyway, he was critical of her. So she made it she didn't like that. So she made an appointment to go see him. And I wasn't with her. And she came back and said, I'm not going back to that church. That minister is, I can't remember exactly what she said, but she said, I'm not going back to that church again. So, okay, fine, we'll go somewhere else. But the interesting thing is that about a week after that,
And this is before you were saved.
this was before I was saved.
Well,
I
you
thought
were
I was
members of a church, but you weren't.
Yeah, I was a church member, a church goer, assumed I was a Christian, really didn't fully understand what it really meant to be a born again Christian. And so she was very upset with this meeting she had with this pastor, and he more or less told her that she was haywire, and there was no such. I think, if I remember correctly, she told him about her experience going forward, and all. He said, "Well, that's not really significant," or something, and really upset her. And so she just several days she just couldn't seem to get over it. And then one morning she said, "I had a very interesting dream last night." I said, "Oh, tell me about what was the dream?" She said, "I've been troubled about this pastor and all, and doubting, and causing me to doubt my real salvation. Am I really saved? I mean, he really put some real doubts in my mind." And she said, "I had this dream, and I died in this dream, and I all of a sudden realized I was going through a very long tunnel. And as I was going through this tunnel, it got brighter, and the light got brighter and brighter and brighter until I got to the end of the tunnel, and I was standing before some beautiful, huge, bright white gates, big gates surrounding a big city or something. It's just big walls and a big gate." And she was so excited, and she wanted to go through the gate and go in. And a voice told her, "Not yet. It's not time for you to go in yet. But don't doubt, you will go in when the time comes." And it really touches me thinking about what she said. And she said, "I think that proved right there and there my salvation. That was heaven. And the dream showed me that quit worrying about what this pastor said, that I'm going to go to heaven when the time comes. And I've seen a view of heaven, and it's just marvelous." And so from that point on, that was in Walla Walla, she never had a doubt the rest of her time. So we, after 2 years in Walla Walla, I'd heard about a real estate development new course being offered at UCLA, and I decided that's what I wanted to do. And so we sold our house, packed up, and went to Los Angeles, and we're living in veterans housing on the UCLA campus. Debbie, our oldest daughter, our only daughter at the time, was just starting school, and she went to a school called Bellagio Road Bel Air School, which I don't know if she's in kindergarten or first grade, whatever it was. But anyway, Tishy would drop her off in the mornings, pick her up in the afternoon. And this one day when she was picking her up, she saw a sign. One Friday, I think it was, she saw a sign sitting outside the school, and it said, "New church called Bel Air Presbyterian Church. Starting in the auditorium in 2 weeks or something like that, school auditorium. Oh, really? Okay. She would love that. And so she said, we haven't really found a church that we really like here in Westwood where we're living at UCLA campus. Let's go try that church. So we went to the church, got there. There was 20 people maybe. Time the service finished, there was like 30 people counting us. A young minister who was the son of the Presbyterian minister at Hollywood Presbyterian, a big, huge Presbyterian church, like 6,000 members in Hollywood. And his son now and his wife were starting this new plant church in Bel Air. And we really fit in nice, and we liked it, and we said, okay, this is the church we're going to go to. So we really had a wonderful experience there. We was in the church from like 30 members, and we got to 60 members. We were part of the founding of the church then that properly incorporated the church, and we had now Bel Air Presbyterian Church. And that was the church that I got involved in Bible study, and that's where I found the Lord, was in that church. So anyway, it was a wonderful experience. But then the business got haywire in LA with code enforcement and the old buildings that we owned and everything, and basically forced us to sell them out for practically nothing. And we went to Canada to do land development with a friend, and nothing really significant with little Tishy and with Patsy rather in Canada, other than the Presbyterian church. There was only one English speaking church in the city of Chambly, which was a suburb of Montreal near where we were doing land development. There was only one English speaking church, happened to be Presbyterian, Scottish Presbyterian, which is a very, very conservative. Uh, uh, when I use the word conservative, I'm probably not doing justice in the fact that these people were so conservative. I mean, they just never even would talk hardly in church services. Just everything was so stiff and just so rigid that, I mean, it was just there was no evangelical feeling or spirit about this church at all. It was dead, dead, dead.
Okay.
And there wasn't very many people there. There was probably 50 people total that were just the English speaking people, mostly Scottish, that were living in Chambly that had this, that founded this church. Didn't have a pastor at the time. People were getting up and giving messages. And so, using my Bible study experience at Bel Air, I brought the message a lot of times. I mean, during the 4 years that we lived there, I probably brought the message maybe 60 or 70% of the time, until we finally got a pastor. We got a younger pastor from British Columbia, Canadian, that was very good, and his wife, and he was more evangelical, and we fit in with him, and Tishy fit in with him and his wife, and or Patsy. I keep saying Tishy or Patsy; it's the same person. So again, she got revitalized in Canada with this new pastor and his wife. And then when we moved to Jamaica, I'd say that the best time she ever had as a Christian was teaching a Sunday school class at Rosemount Missionary Church in Montego Bay. I mean, we attended that church from 1968, I guess, until 10 years, 78, until we had to leave there because of government situations. And she started with this class of about 30 kids, I guess, maybe probably about 30 kids, maybe 40. As little kids, they were probably in the third grade or fourth grade or something. And she got along so well with them, and they liked her as a teacher, that they, instead of graduating to the next step, she kept as their teacher clear until they were in high school. And she just loved those kids, loved that class, and they really made her feel like she was really being utilized properly from a Christian standpoint. And it's interesting that even up until a few months ago, I heard from one of the people that was in her Sunday school class, a boy called Eric Harvey. Yeah, Eric, uh, Derek Harvey, who's now an old man, and I can't remember, he'd heard about that I was still around. He called me and heard that she'd passed away, and he called about that and was saying that uh, because of her teaching, he really found the Lord with her. And he had so much to be thankful for, for her teaching for him from a little kid up through high school. And I didn't realize that we'd financed him to go to one of the private schools in Montego Bay. I forgot about it. I knew there was a lot of kids that we helped financially in those days in Jamaica, but he was thanking me for that. And interesting, a couple of years ago, in fact, Conley Salmon, who was a close friend of Debbie's husband, Andy, met him in that Sunday school class. Andy was in her Sunday school class and met Conley, and they were friends forever. And Conley stayed in Jamaica, was a very successful businessman. And he might have called me when Andy passed. I can't remember why he called me, but anyway, we talked for a while. And he told me that her witness as a white woman in a whole black community, Conley was white, never really felt that he fit in too well because all the other kids were black, but how she treated everybody so equally, treated him so nice, and that because of her witness, that he found the Lord and totally changed his life. Yeah. And 3 or 4 other kids over the years have said this. Mainly the Bell family, that was like 9 children, were all in her Sunday school class, and so many times they've told me what an influence she had on them.
Amen.
So that's her testimony. Interesting that the day she passed away, she was in total peace and just thought I'm sleepy, and she folded her hands on her chest and went to sleep.
And that was it.
That was it. Really touching.